What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about questions that Brits have about Americans. You know, usually here, I'm asking questions about Britain. I'm on here learning all about different random stuff about Britain that I've never learned before. And I really enjoy that, but I also enjoy hearing questions that Brits have about Americans, because in sort of a roundabout way, it still teaches me about British culture, hearing about the things that Brits don't understand about America, or the things that are just plain different between Britain and America. By hearing those questions is really quite fascinating, so it's kind of a win-win. And in today's video, we have these two Brits that are going to be posing different topics and questions and kind of giving the British point of view on it. And then I'll have an opportunity here to maybe shed some light on the American point of view, or why the heck we do certain things certain ways. And I'm going to also learn why Brits do things the other way, because at the same time, this question kind of has two sides to the coin here, so should be quite fun and fascinating. And with that being said, let's take a look.
Let's kick it off with the first question.
Cheese. This is a big thing because in the UK, cheese is massive. We love cheese.
And so do Americans, but Americans seem to have what we would call fake cheese.
Fake cheese? Fake... Yeah, that's fair. Honestly, that's fair. I just think this is funny that this is the first question. The first question, cheese. Why is the American cheese so darn bad? Or, well, what is the question?
Orange, plasticky stuff.
In a can.
Cheese in a can. Cheese in plastic wrappers that you just like put on a burger and hope that it melts somehow.
But
well, you know, when they do put it like that. Yeah, I guess we just get kind of used to that. Americans do really enjoy cheese, and we're kind of sickeningly okay with really processed, fake manufactured cheese. Not as many Americans as you think have the spray cheese or cheese in a can. That's actually way overblown. Most Americans think that's pretty disgusting.
When we look at cheese, it's like an actual block of cheese, and you get a knife into it, and it's cheese.
Or you get a slice and you like slice the cheese up into bits.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, it's so nice. We love cheese, but I'm just like, why don't you have it? Because you would like it more than that plastic fake stuff.
So that's the question, huh? Why don't Americans have better cheese? They're spot on. Americans do love cheese, but it's weird because we love cheese, but we're really, really okay with bad cheese at the same time. Or we're just like used to it. The cheese that goes on fast food, the American cheese that they were literally called American cheese that they were showing there in the blocks that are sliced by a machine. That's usually what people put on their hamburgers. I think Americans are just used to it. The funny thing is, they're right. Americans would enjoy these fancier, I don't know, more natural or whole goods cheeses. I have no doubt. But for some reason, I mean, there's people in America who do take the cheese more seriously, kind of cheeseheads, if you will, and they do go out and buy that fancy cheese. It's kind of hard to get in America, from what I understand, like compared to Britain. It'd be kind of tough to get hold of the fancy, what I call fancy cheese, which is probably just normal cheese in Britain, the way that they're talking about it. But I don't know. Americans have gotten used to the manufactured fake cheese. You learn to love it. I guess we're just kind of easily appeased, maybe kind of lazy, like it's available. I don't know. This is really making me kind of wonder myself why we don't get better cheese. Good point.
Yeah. It's only really fake cheese you ever see in America.
Yeah.
Contactless. Yeah. Contactless is huge over here. Everywhere you go, just use your debit card and it's like beep, beep, and you've paid for stuff, and there's like a £30 limit on what you can purchase.
Yeah.
Contactless everywhere.
Yeah.
Why haven't...
Well, hold on. What's the question?
You got that.
Why haven't we gotten the contactless debit card and credit card tapping? When was this video made? this video is like 5 years old, so I will say, for the longest time, this really did bug me. Like, here in America, like, it felt like in a lot of parts of the world, there was the technology, like, really being implemented of tap your phone, tap your card, bam, pay for something. And it wasn't really in stores around America. They're absolutely correct. But, in the last 5 years, I think that's really, like, changed most, like, grocery stores that I go to around where I live in America, and I think it's pretty representative of America as a whole. Most stores have finally adapted to the new technology. Most debit cards do have the chip inside of them, or the wireless little, device that's in the corner so that you can touch the cash register or part of it that scans the card and do the contactless payment. That's finally here. The technology is finally here.
It's crazy. When I last went to America, you only just had chip and pin.
Yeah.
Isn't that insane?
It's
Where you
mental.
put your card into the machine and type in your pin number, you were still having to sign for things.
That's us like...
And a lot of people still do that, to be honest. I feel like we're quite slow to change with the times.
10 years ago, and then when chip and pin came, it's like, oh, okay, this is a little bit more convenient, but still irritating. Like, you have to put your card in, you have to wait, and you got to put your number in, then you have to wait. Whereas now it's just beep.
It's amazing. And
I honestly, yeah. The more they talk about it, the inserting the card, the chip, and typing your number in, that is by far the most popular method. I still even do it just because some places still don't have the contactless payment, but more places do. But this is kind of true.
Apple Pay on your phone. So America must have it because Apple is an American brand.
Yeah.
But now I've registered my card with my phone, so I can just hold my phone over the like
NFC
card machine.
device. Yeah.
It gets my fingerprint and goes ding. You've paid.
Yeah.
Like, keep up with the times, America. You.
It's funny because America does like pride itself on being like, I don't know, like at the forefront of technology, really with it, really the trend setters. But we were really behind on the contactless payment, and I feel like we've just barely started to finally catch up.
You invented lots of this technology anyway.
Yeah, so why don't you implement it? I find it so bizarre. I was doing some shopping yesterday, and a girl was paying at like a self-service checkout next to me, and she like swiped her card, and I was like, what on earth? And then the shop assistant was like, oh no, is that an American card? She was like, yeah, and there was a massive queue, and everyone was just like eye rolling, like you're just wasting everyone's time.
Oh no, Americans in Britain, man, we're just in Britain swiping our cards, causing a scene. I'm sorry, but I don't know why this one took so long for Americans to catch on. But I distinctly remember this bugging me for years, that you couldn't do this.
Oh.
So, yeah, contactless.
Life-changing. So this is a hard one. Guns. Come on, guys.
We still don't understand why guns are a thing. Like, why is it so easy to buy a gun in America?
It is ridiculous.
We have a law against guns in the UK, and we have a lot less gun crime.
Well, they've worked.
Yeah, obviously this is like a controversial topic or whatnot, however you want to look at it. Part of the answer, as not satisfying as an answer this is because it's the way it's always been, seems to be an answer. Like, when the American Constitution was written, and like, you know, the amendments that gave everyone the right to bear arms, that was at the beginning of America. So it feels like a big part of it is everyone feels like that stuff is gospel. That is just can't be changed. Like, it's just been that way, that everyone in America can own a firearm. Technically, some of that is because so the common people can like form a militia. This is going back, you know, hundreds of years now. Why can Americans have guns? But that was back when, you know, you had a gun that you were like loading with a pellet and a rod and stuffing the paper down in there with gunpowder and shooting one bullet at a time. I think everyone was like, obviously owning a gun like that is a lot different than owning a gun now. When they wrote this law, everyone had like a flint pistol that could shoot one bullet every 10 minutes. It was a lot different than we're using the same law today, where you can have an automatic weapon that's shooting hundreds of rounds a minute. So that's really changed. That's an argument a lot of Americans bring up, that, you know, the times have changed and maybe the law should change, but it's just been that way. And originally it was so Americans could have a militia, a people's army. Part of it is so we could keep our government in check if the government ever got out of line or was trying to have too much power. The American people would have firearms. The American people would have guns and be able to make sure the government never got too much power or stepped out of line. That was part of it. And today it's just a massive, like, my rights, my freedom kind of mentality of, if you, at this point, most people associate, if they were to ever take away our right to own a gun, it's taking away part of our freedom somehow. It's linked. It's just in the minds of Americans, freedom and owning a weapon has become linked. So that makes it all the harder. And I don't know. It's obviously a very, very, very good question that we really should talk about. And I have said this many times. Maybe this is the American part of me speaking. I am okay with the idea of people being able to own guns, especially for hunting and I suppose for self-protection. Okay, but it should not be so easy. That is the big, like, what the heck is going on here? It should not be easy to own a weapon. You should have to take tests. It's, you know, at least be as difficult as owning a car or something, you know? Maybe you should have a license to own a gun. You should have to be recertified. You should have to prove that you are competent and trustworthy and you can operate the gun with responsibility. Is that too much to ask? I think that should be totally reasonable. And yet, still to this day, it's very, very, very strangely, disturbingly easy to get a gun as an American. And I think most Americans would agree with that, at least, you know? I don't think we're ever going to abolish the ability to own a gun, but it should be more difficult to own a gun. I think that's a good first step, I guess.
Out proportionally, so it's not even like, oh, you're a smaller country than us, that's why you have no gun crime, because they've done it as in proportionally to our population.
Yeah.
We just have virtually no gun crime whatsoever.
No.
This gun control works in the UK, it works in Australia, it works in loads of other countries, so you can see that it works, so why wouldn't you do it? I don't know. Well, I know it's to do with like the laws and constitutions and all these things, but I'm just like, come on. And people's lives are more important.
Yeah, we love America, but that's just one thing that's just like, if I would, that would be one thing that would be the reason why I couldn't live there.
Yeah.
Not that I'm allowed in. But,
I mean, I've heard that before as well. People who don't live in America are like scared that Americans all own guns, that you're seeing guns all the time, and that it's scary. That's not my experience. Maybe if you live in some of the more southern states in America that really are proud of their guns, but in most of America, even though all Americans have access to guns, you're not going to encounter a gun unless it's on a police officer. People are not walking around with guns. Like, I've never in my whole life been in a situation where I felt scared that there was a gun, that someone like a civilian had a gun, like in a store or something. It just has not happened. I don't walk around with that fear. I don't know. You know, that's my personal anecdotal experience of all this. But I don't know. It sounds like people outside of America feel like it's very scary here in regards to guns. And make no mistake, I would never trespass on some farmer's like countryside, like farmland, or some farmhouse, or some house in the middle of nowhere. I would not go on their property at night or in the day and start walking around, or else I would be worried that they might shoot at me if I'm on their private property. That for sure, but outside of that, I don't feel very scared about the whole thing.
if I was to move there for any reason, I wouldn't. That would be that would really like, I'd live in fear.
Yeah. Oh, it's scary. It's insane.
That's mental. It's so hard to get hold of a gun in England.
Yeah.
I've not tried. I just know that it's hard.
Like, I think you can, but
That's the way it should be. That's definitely the way it should be. It should be very hard to get a gun. I totally agree with that.
yeah, you have to have a license, and it has to be for like farming purposes, and it has to be like locked away in a cabinet in your house. You absolutely cannot carry it with you.
No way.
Like, ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see where it seems ridiculous, America, because of we do have like you can carry a gun around with you if you have the proper licenses. That is definitely a thing. I don't know, maybe because I have grown up in America my whole life. I am just more comfortable with the whole thing. I'm just used to it. Maybe that's a part of it. And maybe that's sad. Maybe that's not a good thing that I'm used to it. But most Americans, when they hear arguments like, oh, we should abolish everyone's ability to get guns, most people are like, well, if you're a criminal, you're probably going to be able to get access to a gun if you want to. Because most people are like, oh, just abolish guns, then people won't have guns. But that would make them a criminal, but that's the only kind of person who would get a gun is illegally now. So people feel like, in the end, criminals would have guns, and then everyone else would not have guns if we made it flat out illegal, because then only people who own guns would have them illegally, which is the criminals. So if that makes any sense, that's an argument I've heard before as well. But that still doesn't mean there's an excuse for how easy it is to get a gun in America. That has always disturbed me, honestly, and I think a lot of Americans would agree with that. That being said, there's a ton of Americans who will definitely die on the hill of owning a gun is as American as apple pie and barbecue. So don't even think about changing the law. There's certainly a lot of Americans who would just say they love how it is right now. And there's definitely truth to that. So take it for what you will, if that makes any sense.
So the next one is to do with exercise and particularly walking. So we love walking over here. Everyone walks. You know, I remember we used to walk to school. And then, we've got a smaller country, but there's always paths
or
everywhere.
Sidewalks.
Or a sidewalk. Sidewalk.
Sounds weird in our accent.
Yeah, sidewalk. Why don't people walk that much in America?
We should. we really should. We really should walk more. It's funny. These questions are funny because they're just like hitting right at the core. They're not pulling any punches. It's like, why can everyone get guns? I don't know. It kind of doesn't make sense. Why don't people walk more? Why don't you have better cheese? All the really hard-hitting questions here. We should walk more? I don't know. America, just everyone has a car. We grow up in our cars, driving everywhere. Walking is simply not a thing. Our whole system is not really built around public transportation, so we're not even walking to the bus stop and getting on the bus and walking somewhere. We're always getting in our car. So that walking muscle, that walking instinct, never developed. Never. But it's obviously a bad thing. Like, it would definitely be better if Americans walked more, myself included. But even every fiber of my being doesn't want to walk. Like, it's not good. It's not good. So this is a good observation.
I think gas is really cheap over there for them.
Right.
So in terms of expense, you're like, well, why
Kinda.
wouldn't I? It's like petrol's really cheap.
Yeah.
But again, that's not taking into account the effects on the environment. But again, that probably more applies to slightly more rural areas. I'm sure if we went to a big city, there'd be more people walking.
Yeah.
True.
Okay.
That's true. There are more people. That's very true. Americans will walk by necessity in bigger cities, but by and large, in America, you're not going to see a lot of people voluntarily walking. You'd have to twist my arm behind my back to get me to walk anywhere. Ha!
Okay, this one's something you've experienced.
Yeah. It's the toilets. in America, public toilets or public bathrooms or restrooms.
no.
Why is there such big gaps in between the doors and above and below the door?
As a short woman, this
Yeah.
sort of makes me uneasy.
Yes. Yes, I love this. I don't know. No one knows. No one knows why there's such big gaps in the public stalls, the toilet stalls. This is a big running joke in America. I've seen this before. It's very funny because of how true it is. Big gaps above and below. I've seen memes about this, actually. It cracks me up. I don't know. I don't know who we're buying all this stuff from, who the manufacturer is, what kind of sickos are in charge of designing the public stalls for the bathrooms, but there's big gaps.
But the gaps.
Absolutely
I wouldn't
insane.
be able to go to the loo.
No. Well, I could, like... Well, I have no words because there's no privacy in public toilets.
Yeah.
You literally, all you want to do is just take a peaceful poo, and you can't because you're panicked because someone's waiting for the toilet and they can see you through the gap, and you're sat there like,
oh my god.
Yeah, I know. All right, here's the thing. Americans at least have, like, kind of a moral code around this, where it's like, if you're in the bathroom, you don't stare at people through the gaps. Don't peek your head over or peek your head under through the giant gaps. Don't do it. It's okay to look and see if someone's feet are there, even though that might sound kind of weird to non-Americans. Americans do at least, like, kind of look under, like, from far away, from afar, and just look for shoes. And it's like, okay, someone's in there. I'm going to give them their privacy. I'm not going to encroach any further. So that's kind of a thing, but don't look through the gaps. Even though you kind of know no one's doing it. Or, I mean, most people. I guess I don't know if everyone's abiding by the code, but this definitely is a thing. I don't know. I don't know why this is a thing. I think we've just gotten used to it. Sadly.
are they going to leave?
Surely that's like really embarrassing. Has anyone had any embarrassing moments where they're just on the loo and they're just making eye contact with someone who's waiting?
Yeah, let us know in the comments, because I know I've seen a video from an American being like, your public toilets are like private rooms, and I'm like, well, yeah, because you're doing something private in there.
That would shock me. I didn't know that British toilets, British stalls, as we call them, are so private, but it'd be difficult to be less private than the American ones, so I guess I believe it. I understand. I don't know. I don't know why it is like that. Like, I can't answer this. I don't know why it's this way.
Yeah.
But let us know if that's a thing that you've noticed, or, you know, if you're just used to it. If you're used to pooing in front of people.
Yeah.
If you're used to the performance of
Kind
it.
of.
Another heavy...
We kind of are. Like, I don't know. It's not as bad as they make it out to be. Like, usually no one's in the bathroom with you, and if they are, they're not trying to look at you. And the gap, in a lot of places, the gap is pretty tiny, but it's still hilarious, like, this is a thing.
One is healthcare. As you may or may not know, in England, in the UK, we have the NHS, and that means free healthcare for everyone who is a taxpayer here, which is basically everyone.
Oh man, we're really hitting everything in this video. The guns, the toilets, the cheese, the healthcare. Okay. Yeah, I feel like this is going to cause another rant by me.
If you need medical attention, you'll get it.
Yeah.
Yes, you might have to wait a little bit of a while unless your case is urgent, but you'll get seen to, and you'll be looked after for free because it's included in the tax we pay to our government. In America, if you get ill, if you get seriously ill, that could cost you and your family, your house, all your savings.
Thousands of dollars.
Thousands of, I was about to say pounds, obviously dollars. Right. And that is just devastating.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like for people trying to understand this about American healthcare, it's both blown out of proportion and at the same time absolutely true. For the most part, as dumb as our system is, like, for the most part, if you have health insurance, which is some kind of plan that you're getting through your job or through the government, they sell these plans as well, insurance plans. If you're paying your monthly insurance premium that you pay every month, That's most people. That's most people are going to have healthcare coverage. So for a lot of folks in America, this isn't a huge issue. Now, the thing is, the fact that this is a possibility for any Americans, we consider ourselves, like a pretty darn good country, first world country, biggest economy, one of the most influential countries on the planet, world leader. The fact that there are Americans out there, if they're in a financial situation where they don't have health insurance, or they don't have a very good plan that doesn't cover a lot of things, then that's the reality for a lot of Americans out there. Not most, but some, I'll say. Some. Yes, this can absolutely happen, where they need health care, they need help. And, American healthcare, the actual care that you get when you go to the hospital, the actual care that the doctor gives you, that the surgeons give you, is fantastic. Some of the best in the world. But the price you pay, that's the thing. You might be paying off cancer treatment for the rest of your life. You might be paying off a life-saving surgery for the rest of your life. And that's not something... the sick, disturbing part of it is, this is a product that you have to buy. Healthcare. You need it to live, to be healthy. It's not like jacking up the price of potatoes or something. You can just choose not to purchase the potatoes. The fact that healthcare is like a business in America, absolutely crazy. It's wild. And because it's a business, because we have to pay lots of money, if you don't have the correct insurance, you have to pay lots of money for procedures and medicines and pharmacies, and there's a lot of medical companies making a lot of money, which seems to be a big reason why none of this changes, because those companies do not want this system to change. But if the question here is, why is it this way? Then my answer is, Americans don't want it this way. Americans don't like it. I think it's tolerated because it affects a small part of the population. Most people do have an insurance plan, and most people don't have life-threatening medical emergencies. So most people in America get by fine. And I think that is why this isn't a bigger issue of why aren't we changing this? I think that's why. But most Americans would not deny that the system is terrible and corrupt and makes no sense and profit-driven. And I told you I might go on a rant.
Yeah. Well, we made a video about it, so if you're really interested, click the card in the top right corner or in the description below. We'll link it down there as well. Lots of the comments from Americans there were actually really sad. Like, people were saying how much money it's cost them, like if their child's been ill, that they've got insurance, but they still have to pay like $3,000 up front before they can get treatment or...
Even if you have insurance, insurance plans will often cover like 70-80% of your costs, which is fine if you need a little procedure. But if you need some kind of medicine or a surgery that is $200,000, now, suddenly, if you're only paying 20% of that, well, 20% of that is $40,000. It's a lot. So you can still really get screwed over, even if you do have insurance, if you have a really expensive procedure. And in America, they purposefully make everything very, very, very expensive in healthcare because all the hospitals are thinking, the insurance plan is going to cover most of it. So, we're not screwing you over. We're screwing over the insurance company that this Band-Aid costs $100. And it doesn't quite end up that way, especially if you're in that minority of people who need really expensive stuff.
Claim any money back. And it's it's just really sad.
So if you are interested in hearing a bit more about the healthcare system we have over here, just click the NHS video there.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I think I'm going to stop right here. This video is pretty long. We're only about halfway through. Man, the questions for Americans from Brits. I didn't know these topics were going to be so hard-hitting, especially the cheese. So feel free to come back for part 2 if you've been enjoying this. And I think we're just going to have to complete the rest of this in the video after this one, which is fine because I'm really quite enjoying this. Anyway, if you've been enjoying this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to British culture, things in Britain that I've never seen or learned about, or part 2 of this video, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.